Some ant colonies have been growing continuously for over 100 years, housing tens of millions of individuals across a single connected network. The largest documented supercolony stretches over 6,000 kilometers, with billions of ants from genetically related colonies cooperating instead of fighting. Effectively one civilization spanning an entire continent, larger than most countries on Earth. Their society runs on a strict, unchangeable caste system. The queen's only function is reproduction. Some queens lay over 800 eggs a day for decades, and a single queen can be the genetic origin of an entire empire of millions. Worker ants are sterile females who handle foraging, construction, and brood care, organized into specialized roles based on age. Younger workers stay inside caring for the brood. Older workers take on the more dangerous job of foraging outside. Soldier ants exist purely for defense, equipped with oversized mandibles built for combat rather than work, sometimes large enough that they can no longer feed themselves and rely entirely on other workers. Every ant is born into its role through genetics and pheromone exposure, and it never changes for the rest of its life. What they build rivals human engineering in complexity. Leafcutter ant colonies construct underground cities up to 8 meters deep with thousands of interconnected chambers, some for waste disposal, some for nurseries, some specifically engineered as ventilation shafts that regulate temperature and oxygen flow more precisely than most human-made structures of similar scale. They don't just live underground, they farm underground, cultivating fungus gardens as their primary food source, feeding it chewed leaf fragments and harvesting it like livestock, while constantly removing harmful bacteria using antibiotic compounds they produce themselves. But this civilization has a brutal side most people never see. When two rival colonies meet, the result isn't a skirmish. It's organized warfare with thousands of casualties, sometimes lasting for days, with ants strategically encircling, dismembering, and dragging away enemy workers as resources. Some species even raid rival colonies specifically to kidnap their larvae, raising them as slave labor. And if a queen dies without a successor already prepared, the entire colony doesn't just struggle. It ultimately collapses entirely, with worker ants continuing their tasks for weeks afterward with no purpose left to serve, the civilizations slowly grinding to a halt from the inside. Termites. Termite colonies can persist for over 50 years, with some mounds in Africa estimated to be over 4,000 years old, continuously inhabited, rebuilt, and expanded by uncountable generations, making them among the oldest continuously occupied animal structures on the planet. A single mature colony can house several million individuals, all descended from one reproductive pair. Their caste system is even more rigid than an ant colony's. The king and queen are the only reproductive members, and unlike most insects, the king lives alongside the queen for life, continuously fertilizing her. Some termite queens can live for over 20 years and grow so enormous with eggs that they become immobile, essentially turning into living egg-laying machines, completely dependent on workers to feed and clean them. Worker termites are blind, soft-bodied, and spend their entire lives in darkness maintaining the colony, while soldier termites have evolved massive, disproportionate jaws or even chemical-spraying heads specifically built to defend the colony, sacrificing the ability to feed themselves entirely. Their construction is staggering in scale. Termite mounds in Africa and Australia can reach over 9 meters tall. Proportionally, if a human built something of equivalent relative size, it would be taller than the world's largest skyscraper. Inside, the structure functions as a precision climate control system. Termites build intricate networks of tunnels and chimneys that passively regulate temperature and airflow, keeping the internal nursery and fungus gardens at a near constant temperature, regardless of extreme heat outside. A system so efficient that modern architects have studied termite mounds to design energy-free cooling systems for human buildings. But beneath the engineering lies something unsettling. When resources run low, termite colonies have been documented practicing cannibalism on their own injured or dying members, recycling the nutrients rather than letting anything go to waste. And if the king or queen dies unexpectedly, certain worker termites can undergo a hormonal transformation, developing reproductive organs to replace them entirely, meaning the colony doesn't just survive the loss of its rulers, it grows new ones from what used to be ordinary laborers, a transformation that takes only weeks. Wasps. Unlike ants or termites, most wasp species don't build empires that last decades. Their colonies typically survive only a single season, growing from a single fertilized queen to several thousand workers before collapsing entirely as winter approaches. But what they accomplish in that short window is just as complex and arguably more violent. Their hierarchy starts with one queen who survives the winter alone, emerging in spring to single-handedly build the colony's first nest and raise the first generation of workers by herself before delegating all labor to them. After that, the caste system splits clearly. Sterile female workers handle construction, foraging, and defense, while males exist for only weeks at the end of the season with one single purpose: mating with new queens before dying. Some wasp species also produce specialized worker subcastes that never leave the nest, existing purely to chew wood pulp into paper for construction or to guard the entrance with their bodies. Their construction is deceptively sophisticated. Paper wasps create nests from chewed wood fiber mixed with saliva, engineering hexagonal cells that use the absolute minimum material for maximum strength, a structural principle so efficient that human engineers still reference it when designing lightweight, load-bearing materials. Some species build multi-layered nests with internal climate control, using wing fanning behavior to cool the colony or clustering together to generate heat, keeping internal brood chambers within a precise, survivable temperature range even during extreme weather. The brutal side of wasp society is harder to ignore than in any other insect civilization on this list. Many wasp species are predators that don't just kill for food. They paralyze prey with venom and store it alive, sometimes for their own larvae to consume gradually from the inside while still breathing. At the end of each season, as resources collapse, colonies have been observed turning on their own, workers attacking and expelling the queen herself once she's no longer useful, or even consuming the colony's own larvae to survive the final weeks before the entire civilization dies out, leaving only a handful of new queens to start over from nothing the following spring. Bees. Unlike wasps, honeybee colonies are built to last. A single hive can persist for years, sometimes decades, as long as the queen keeps producing new generations. A mature colony can house up to 80,000 individuals at its peak, all functioning as a single coordinated organism rather than separate insects. Their hierarchy is built around one queen whose only role is reproduction, capable of laying up to 2,000 eggs a day during peak season, more than her own body weight in eggs daily. Worker bees are sterile females who cycle through every job in the colony based on age, cleaning cells in their first days of life, nursing larvae next, then building wax comb, guarding the entrance, and finally foraging outside for the final weeks of their 6-week lifespan, quite literally working themselves to death in the colony's service. Male bees, called drones, exist for a single purpose: mating with a new queen, and are violently expelled from the hive once that purpose is fulfilled and resources need conserving for winter. Their construction is mathematically precise. Honeybees build wax honeycomb using a perfect hexagonal pattern that mathematicians have proven is the most efficient possible shape for storage, using the least amount of wax to hold the maximum amount of honey. Beyond architecture, they've developed a functioning language, the waggle dance, a series of precise movements that communicate the exact direction and distance of a food source to the rest of the colony. accurate enough that other bees can fly directly to a location they've never seen themselves. But survival here comes at a cost few people realize. When a hive grows too large, workers don't just expand peacefully. They raise multiple new queens and force the old queen to fight them to the death, or drive her out entirely to start over elsewhere with half the colony. And when winter approaches, bees make a calculated decision to abandon their own, sealing off and removing any sick or weak members, including their own siblings, to protect the survival of the collective. The individual means nothing. Only the hive matters.